Jquery DOM manipulation. Jquery contains most powerful methods for changing and manipulating HTML elements and attributes. So, it comes with a bunch of DOM-related methods that make it easy to access and manipulate elements and attributes. So, for a brief review, DOM is a document object model. So, it is a platform and language-neutral interface that allows programs and scripts to dynamically access and update the content, structure, and the style of a document. So there are three simple and useful jQuery methods for DOM manipulation. So the first one is the text method. It sets or returns the text content of selected elements. And the second one is the HTML method. So it sets or returns the content of selected elements including HTML markup. And the last one is the val method. It sets or returns the value of form fields. So the following example demonstrates how to get content with the jQuery, text method, and HTML methods.
Show you how to apply the HTML and then the text method in our jQuery. Okay, so first thing to do, guys, so we have already here the HTML document, and then also create na tawag button, and then also paragraph here. So ato lang kulang ganing button is i-apply butang jQuery. So first thing to do is we will add I put the JS source file sa jQuery. So dito sa head na to ni ibutang. So magbutang tag JavaScript dani. Script. Okay. So ang source nato ni siya. So I already download the jQuery compress file sa link sa jQuery na website. So nabutang na ko siya sa JS na file. So ato na siyang i-copy. Okay, and then src, then JS jQuery na code. So script. Okay. So always remember sa pag gamit sa jQuery, mag-start yun na una sa document ready event. So start this document, then ready function. So i-familiarize lang ninyo ni function. Okay. So una na itong input ang selector sa button 1. So ID, since ID siya, hashtag ito gamiton. So button btn1 dot click and function alert nung gamiton na niya. Alert, then text, then tag. So dini, so once na maklik ang button once, atong i-display ang full text sa atong ID, sulod sa atong ID test. So mag-selector to the name of things. So test and then input ni mo dayon ang text method. Okay. So we are now done for button 1. So ato ni next one na po is sa button 2. Okay, so basically copy lang na sila. Okay, test 2. Okay. So but naka-differ lang is sa atong button 2 ang ma-display niya ang HTML. Appeal ang HTML markup niya. So atong tanawon sa iyang final output, guys. Yung iyang file, HTML. So once na to i-click ang show text, ma-display ang full text niya. So which is naka-display siya. Nagamit ang alert na method. Then control na show HTML. So ma-appeal ang iyang HTML markup. So mo naka-differ between sa HTML o text na method. So sa show sa text method, only the text lang ma-display. So while ang HTML na method, appeal lang iyang HTML markup should appeal. So that's all. Jquery set content. So same with the get, guys. We have also three methods for set content. So the text HTML and the val method. So we have the program here. So I will explain to you sa pag-set o content sa Jquery. Okay, so atong program na to this time is gamit og text ug HTML ug val. Okay, so as you can see here, so natay ID na test1 ug test2, and then naput the input field ani ang gamit so ayang idea po is test3. Okay, so once i-click atong button 1, test1 na to na nakabuto na this paragraph is pulian siya. Okay, so iset na to siya into hello world. Same po sa test of set 3. So basically ato silang pulian tanan. Okay, so ato na lang ang output niya. Okay, so dara guys. So this paragraph, so sa text, so hello world, na-replace siya sa HTML, hello world, and then set value of the readout. So mo na siya for set content.
So in Jquery, adding elements is simple. So we have 4 Jquery methods that are used to add new content. So the first one is append method. It inserts content at the end of the selected element. The second is prepend method. It inserts the content at the beginning of the selected elements. And the third one is after method. It inserts content after the selected elements. And the last one is before method. It inserts content before the selected elements.
Example for append method. Okay, so in our program, so na itay paragraph din and then also order list of item. Okay, so when we click the button 1, okay, so kaning kuan gamit hold down na P na element is ma-append siya. So gamit ang append method o text na appended text. So naka-bold letters siya, and then same po sa button 2. So sa list daw madagagan ang list of another na kun item na text is appended item. Okay, so let's see the result. Okay, so take up in text. Okay, so inana mo work ang append method. That's all. Sa atong before ug after na method, so remember guys, lahi ang before after na method compare sa append ug prepend. So lahi na silang duwa, lahi na silang function. So karon nato ni siyang discuss itong differentiate. So muni siya tong example ng program. Okay, so sinja po ng flow ya po nato, pero nagamit ang tag image ani. So nato ni akong ibutang Japon sa JS na folder. So sa button 1, once i-click guys, kaning before na method, kaning text na nakabutang din na before is mabutang siya before sa image. Then same yapon sa button 2, once ma-click na to, ma-display ang after na text. Okay, so mo niya output niya. Okay, so na ang mga doka button and then ang picture. Okay, so once i-click na itong insert before, automatic na mo display na before na text. But naka-position siya sa before sa image, so left side. So while ang after is na siya sa right side. So inani mag-work ang before na after na method. So ang kalahian lang sa prepend ug append is sa ganitong gatang example, dili ma-apply din ang prepend ug append. Kaya ang prepend ug append is wala siya. Is once magamit mo na siya sa usa ka element, for example, so imo na gamiton sa after ang data na mag-create is mabutang gyapon sa same element, pero sa last index siya mabutang. Pero ang after na method is mag-create siya another new element, pero mabutang siya sa pagkibalimi mo ng sibling niya. So after siya sa hindi specified na nimo na image. So muna na niya result. So that's how it. So in this example, I will show the difference between the remove and the empty method. Okay, so first is atong gamiton ng remove method. Okay, so once nimo ni click gamiton ng remove method, for example. Okay. At mawala tanan. Okay. So everything na naa sa div class, including yung kagulingon niya po, ang div mismo, is ma-erase tanan. So muna siya kay parang na-delete din siya tanan. So muna siya ang sa remove. Kung magamit og empty na method, inani yung result. So ang nitabo is ang sulod lang sa div class ang na-erase. So muna nakalayan sa empty. So kibali kung unsa ang iyang children niya, kung sa'y nasa sulod niya, mo ray ma-erase, dili ma-appeal ang div mismo. So muna siya sa difference sa remove o sa empty. So I will show you how to apply the add class, remove class, and the toggle class in Jquery. So this is our example. So sa itong code, itong buhaton natin is kaning I love Jquery and it's fun and simple. Atong i-change niya yung color. So let's start. So page 2 plus page 1. And so after that, mag-create din tao ng yung CSS. Okay, so na magpatag style ni. So CSS selector. So ato siguro ang is change, then ang atong change niya color into red. So atong gamito is add class. So para ma-change na to ang color niya into red. So atong ibutang din sa iyang inside sa add class method is ang selector na change. Okay, so atong tanaw ng output. So muna ang result ko magamit kag add class. So kung gusto nimo i-remove siya, so ang gamiton nimo is remove class. Remove class na siya. Then kung gusto nimo na ang i-click nimo na button is mag-remove siya, at the same time pwede po siya mag-add class. So atong gamiton ng toggle. So toggle. So ano yung result tayo. So that's all.
What is AJAX? AJAX means Synchronous JavaScript and XML. AJAX is not a programming language. AJAX just uses a combination of a browser built-in XML HTTP request object to request data from a web server, JavaScript and HTML DOM to display or use the data. AJAX applications might use XML to transport data, but it is equally common to transport data as plain text or JSON text. The XML HTTP request object can be used to exchange data with a web server behind the scenes. This means that it is possible to update a part of the web page without reloading the whole page. When an event occurs in a web page, the XML HTTP request object is created by JavaScript. Then the XML HTTP request object sends a request to a web server passed through the internet. Then the server processes the request, and the server sends a response back to the web page. And then back to the browser, the response is read by JavaScript and update the page content. The XML HTTP request object methods and their descriptions. The XML HTTP request object properties and their descriptions. The onReadyState change property. The readyState property holds the status of the XML HTTP request. The onReadyState change property defines a function to be executed when the readyState changes. The status property and the status text property holds the status of the XML HTTP request object. The onReadyState change function is called every time when the ready states change. When the ready states is 4 and the status is 200, the response is ready. When sending a request to a server, we use the open and send methods of the XML HTTP request object. Below is the example of the methods and their descriptions. In question, what method should I use? Get is simpler and faster than post, and can be used in the most cases. However, always use post request when a catch file is not an option, updating a file or a database in a server, sending a large amount of data to the server because post has no size limitation, sending user input, for example string, which can contain unknown characters. Post is a more robust and secure than get. This is an example code of XML HTTP request object. First is the HTML code. Second is the function code. Inside the function code, the creating XML HTTP request object, the onReadyState change function, and lastly, sending request to the server. And this is the example of the XML HTTP request object.
So, good evening. Here is my report for today. So, AJAX PHP example. So, AJAX is used to create more interactive application. AJAX PHP example. The following demonstrates how a web page can communicate with a web server while a user types characters in a input field. So input field, as you can see here na siya example, no? So natay mo search box. So as you can see, ako siyang search. Example is Joshua. Ang nakabutang dre is suggestion, not no suggestion. So wala siya sa input field. Ito na to ang Francis. So wala gyapon, no? So kani siya mga output inputs na daan sa input field, no? So suggestion is nasi F. So nasi Fiona, no? Ang out bul L is nasi Ellen. Pag-type na tug-i nasi Eva, nagawas si Eve, Eveta, Elizabeth, and Ellen. So here are the explained example. So the example above, when a user types a character in the input field, a function called show hint is executed. So the function is triggered by an one key up event. So here nara yung code. So sa function, itong nakita si show hint here. And then yung length, siyang inner, so atong gi kuanda yun si si HTML. Tapos here nag-request ta atong gikuan sa atong text field. Ayan, exit. So here are the explanations sa atong code na. So first, check the input field is empty. So str length is equal to 0, so wala ito sulod, no? If it is clear the content of the txt hint, placeholder exit the function. So however, if the input field is not empty, do this the following. So now, first step is create an HTML HTTP request object. So mo ano siya here, request object here, para no ano siya, no? So second no, so ito siyang request. Dayon the na is create the function to be executed to the server response is ready, no? Excuse me. So third one is send the request to the PHP file. So ug asa nimo gi-save ang PHP file, no? So para makuha nato ang get hint niya, no? Dayon get hint on the server. Dayon notice that q are the parameters is added, q hint and PHP. Q is equal to plus str, no? Tara, as you can see is true, no? To open your file location atong ka-input here. So after that, the str variable holds the content of the input field. So nara ako tang pakita, scroll down lang ta, ha? Nara ang get hint file niya. So sa atong ipang search yung ganiya, isula si Francis o si Joshua. So naka-array names with Anna, Tani, so na si Dayan, si Ava, si Fiona, nigawas ganiya. So mo na siya, si Johanna. So mo niya ang mga input fields niya. The next step is the ASP, agent ASP. So this one is used to create more interactive application rather than PHP. Okay? So for the following example, we'll demonstrate how a web page can communicate to a web server while a user type character in an input field. So almost the same lang sila, no? But here, when user types character input field, a function called show hint na pod is executed again. So the function is triggered by an sana siya, one key up event. So here are the examples sa iyang codes. Almost the same lang gid sila sa PHP nga example, no? So here are the explanation of the code. So almost the same, ang nakalahi lang sila is ug asa naka-save imong PHP file. Ganya kay imong PHP file man. Then first step is request an HTML object upon, then create the function. Almost the same lang sila kaganya sa PHP. Then notice ang Q yapon mo yapon natin gigamit na parameter para sa get the hint. Okay? So narayapon siya, no? Darayapon siya dapat, no? Then okay, the str variable holds the content yapon of the input field. So nara ang ESP file na to, no? So kaganiha is lahi is, dili sila the same, wala siya naka-array, ha? Kani siya naka-array na siya sa PHP, no? Array with names. Here ano siya mga names nga manggawas o may pang search, no? No output, no suggestion if no hint were found, or output correct values if hint. So dili sa ma-search og wala siya diri sa file na daan la. So almost the same na gid sila. Moriya po na ang giko ano. So AJAX database. So here it can be used for interactive communication with a database, no? So for example, nara itong example. So select a customer. So si select customer is na si Alfred. Kani si Alfred. So pag click ni mo na is na siya ko ano, table daan. Na sulod yung customer ID, customer name, contact name, address, city, postal code, o country, no? So here are the customer show function. When a user selects a customer in the drop list value, a function called show customer is executed. The function is triggered by on change event. So change event so no. So naratong codes for show customer. Show customer, ito yung gigamit siya str as a string. Sakto ba? Ay, rather. So here are the examples. How do you explain that one? The show customer function does the following. So check if the customer is selected. So selected mo first ang customer. No, as you can see, north and south. Ano sila ito? North, company, name. Yan sa bana. Same ra sila tulo ang function. Then create an XML HTTP request object. Then create the function to be executed when the server response is ready. Send the request to a file on the server. Then notice that the parameters queue again to add the URL with the content drop down list. After nara atong server page, no? Mo niya siya atong code. Pilit akong laptop. So the source code in get customer runs a query against a database. So pasensya kayo og dili na ko mapakita kayo ang pag-demonstrate na kay kuan akong laptop ga-error permanently. Sorry kayo. So kinin lang sa atong tanawon ang kuan mga examples na. So if gusto mo mag-practice for more knowledge, so anhi lang mo ani nga link na w3school.com. So pwede po mo mag-try diha. Try for the examples. So I don't have the internet man daw. So kani siya para iyang mga kuan. Then MySQL new is MySQL daw, server name, user, password, then DB name. Dayon. So yung MySQL nga the table na kay nasi select customer ID, customer name, company name, contact name, address, city, postal code, country from a customer with a customer ID, no? The next is XML application. This chapter demonstrates HTML application using XML, HTTP, DOM, and JavaScript. No? So here are the examples. The example loops through the CD element and display the value of the artist and the title. Elements in the table. So here, so ang function niya is, so pakita sa mo later. Then display first the CD in HTML div element. So it uses a function display for first CD element in HTML with ID. I'll show ID na yung example, yung codes. Then here, navigate between CDs. So here na sa example, itong ata sa PHP. No. Na here sa XML file. No. So here, click sa natin So nara, mato yang kaganiya, no? Na ang name, so na ang name sa na ang artist, tapos ang title. So butang na to ang book sa imong basahon, tapos ang author nga na bitaw. So na siya here. Let's see, get CD info. Na siya here. So na title nga Empire Burl, what do you na by Bob Dylan, then Hide Your Heart by Bonnie Taylor. So ano na siya, no? Naka-table na siya. So marag yapon siya og si tawag kanang kuan yapon siya sa database. Kay ang table niya is which is mag-connect sa iyang artist. Okay na? So yun lang.
Web API. What is Web API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. A Web API is an application programming interface for the web. A browser API can extend the functionality of a web browser. A server API can extend the functionality of a web server. A web API is also a developer's dream because it can extend the functionality of the browser, it can greatly simplify complex functions, and it can provide easy syntax to complex code. Browser API. All browsers have a set of built-in web APIs to support complex operations and to help accessing data. For example, the geolocation API can return the coordinates of where the browser is located. So let's try and see if it will work. Okay, so here it is, and it should show our latitude and longitude. Also do note that the geolocation property is not supported in IE8 and older versions. So let's try it if it will show our coordinates. And there we go. Web History API. The Web History API is supported in all browsers, Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, etc. etc. So the history back method. The back method loads the previous URL in the windows.history list. It is the same as clicking the back arrow in your browser. So this is the sample code, and pretty much what it says. It is already straight to the point. It loads the previous URL, and this can be seen like in your browser in the top left corner, the arrows. The history go method. The go method loads a specific URL from the history list. So it is pretty much the same as this one, the history back method, but the go method goes to a specific. So for example, you want to go like 3 pages, and it will instantly go jump 3 pages, and so on and so forth. Web History API. History Object Properties. So there's a property in the description. So length returns the number of URLs in the history list. In the history object method, back loads the previous URL in the history list. Forward loads the next URL in the history list. And go loads a specific URL from the history list. Web Storage API. The Web Storage API is a simple syntax for storing and retrieving data in the browser. It is very easy to use. The Web Storage API is also supported in all browsers. So this example. So here it is, right? In the data, it has the name, and the name which is John Doe. And the one that we are retrieving or getting is the name. So as you can see here, it is showing John Doe because John Doe is the one that we are retrieving. So if we add something else, like let's say address, and the address is going to be, let's say, heaven, I don't know, floor 3, door number 5. Then change this to address. It instead of John Doe, we will retrieve the address, and it should show heaven, floor 3, door 5. That's right. And there you go. It retrieved the address. Then let's go retrieve the name again. Name, and boom. Simple. The local storage object. The local storage object provides access to a local storage for a particular website. It allows you to store, read, add, modify, and delete data items for that domain. The data is stored with no expiration date and will not be deleted when the browser is closed. The data will be available for days, weeks, and years. The set item method. The local storage set item method stores a data item in a storage. It takes a name and a value as parameters. The get item method. The local storage get item method retrieves a data from the storage. It takes a name as parameter. The session storage object. The session storage object is identical to the local storage object. The difference is that the session storage object stores data for one session. The data is deleted when the browser is closed. So, unlike the local storage object, as you can see here, the data is stored with no expiration date and will not be deleted when the browser is closed. So, it is like the opposite. The set item method. The session storage set item method stores a data item in a storage. It takes name and value as parameters. The get item method. The session storage get item method retrieves a data from the storage. It takes again a name as parameter. So here are the storage object properties and methods. Key returns the name of the nth key in the storage. Length returns the number of data items stored in the storage object. Get item returns the value of the specified key name. Set item adds the key to the storage or update that key's values if it already exists. Remove item removes that key from the storage. Clear empty all keys out of the storage. So the related pages for Web Storage API is now window local storage. It allows to save key value pairs in a web browser. Stores the data with no expiration date. Next is the window session storage. Allows to save key value pairs in web browsers, but in here it only stores the data for one session.
Web Worker API. So what is a web worker? It is a JavaScript that runs in the background independently of other scripts without affecting the performance of the page. You can continue doing whatever you want, like clicking, selecting things, and etc., while the web worker runs in the background. But when executing scripts in an HTML page, the page becomes unresponsive until the script is finished. In browser support, The numbers in this table specify the first browser version that fully support web workers. Before we create a web worker, we should check first whether the user's browser supports it, and this is the code to check web worker support. Next is to create a web worker file in an external JavaScript. Here, we create a script that counts. The important part of this code is the post message method, which is used to post a message back to the HTML page. Take note, normally web workers are not used for such simple scripts, but for more CPU-intensive tasks. Now that we have web worker file, we need to call it from an HTML page. This code will check if the worker already exists. If not, it creates new web worker objects and runs the code in demoworkers.js. Then, we can send and receive message from the web worker. Add an onMessage event listener to the web worker. When the web worker posts a message, the code within the event listener is executed. The data from the web worker is stored in event.data. In terminating a web worker, when a web worker object is created, it will continue to listen for a message, or even after the external script is finished until it is terminated. To terminate a web worker and free browser or computer resources, use this method, the terminate method. Next is to reuse the web worker. If you set the web worker variable to undefined, after it has been terminated, you can reuse this code. So, this is the full web worker example code for the HTML page. And if we run this code, this will be the output. Web workers and the DOM. Since web workers are in external files, they do not have access to the following JavaScript objects, which is the window object, the document object, and the parent object. JavaScript Fetch API. The Fetch API interface allows web browser to make HTTP requests to web servers. It doesn't need for XML HTTP requests anymore. The numbers in the table specify the first browser versions that fully support Fetch API. This example fetches a file and displays the content. Since Fetch is based on async and await, this example might be easier to understand. We can also use understandable names instead of X and Y. So, this will be the output of those codes. Web Geolocation API. In locating the user's position, the HTML Geolocation API is used to get the geographical position of a user. Since this can compromise privacy, the position is not available unless the user approves it. Take note that geolocation is most accurate for devices with GPS like smartphone. The Geolocation API is supported in all of these browsers. As of Chrome 50, the Geolocation API will only work on secure contexts, such as HTTPS. If your site is hosted on a non-secure region, such as HTTP, the request to get the user's location will no longer function. In using the Geolocation API, the getCurrentPosition method is used to return the user's position. This code returns the latitude and longitude of the user's position. This will be the output. In handling errors and rejections, the second parameter of the getCurrentPosition method is used to handle error. It specifies a function to run if it fails to get the user's location. Next is displaying the result in a map. To display the result in a map, you need access to a map service like Google Maps. In this example, the return latitude and longitude is used to show the location in a Google map using a static image. In location-specific information, geolocation is very useful in this field, like up-to-date local information, showing points of interest near the user, and turn-by-turn navigation or GPS. The getCurrentPosition method returns an object on success. The latitude, longitude, and accuracy properties are always returned, so these other properties are returned if available. The geolocation object also has other interesting methods, like watchPosition method that returns the current position of a user and continues to return updated position as the user moves, like the GPS in a car, and clearWatch that stops the watchPosition method. This example is the watchPosition method. This example needs an accurate GPS device to test it, like smartphone. And the output of this code is this. By clicking the Try It button, you'll see the latitude and the longitude.